Hello and welcome to this new episode of Continuum Gaming, and in this episode we are going to talk about messengers. So which one you should use, which one is private and secure, or at least the most private and secure ones, and why should you use them over something like, I don't know, WhatsApp or Discord or something, okay? So I am going to talk about this in this episode, and there is currently a pretty recent development with the Deutscher Bundestag, so the German parliament more or less, said that they don't want to use Signal anymore, which is this one here. And so we are going to talk about why that is, what you should use more or less, if it's a good thing to go to another messenger. And yeah, in general, I am not the biggest fan of Signal myself, but it's not what you think about there. Signal was not in some kind of way hacked or something. It's all about the accounts of the people using them, okay? And in the end, I want to talk about all these other messengers which are out there. My favorite one is Threema at the moment, but there are a couple of them, and I want to talk about them and show you which ones are for which person and which users the best ones, okay? So, just to show you, here is one of the articles about that. So in the end, Signal has had this, yeah, it's not Signal as I mentioned before, it's persons using Signal in the end. So in the end, there was a problem that the recovery mechanism, so if you lost your password or whatever, could more or less be, at least if the user wasn't very careful about it, very easily used to get the access to some kind of an account. And some of the parliamentarians using the Signal for that had these problems, and so they were hacked more or less, so the accounts were taken over, and like that there were a couple of different things that people could read which shouldn't be in the public, okay? So in the end, that is the problem, and because of that there is this article. I'm going to link the article down below if you want to translate it, or if you understand German you can read it if you want to. And in the end it's all about, hey, should we still use Signal, or should we still use any kind of messengers or something like that? Just read it, and if you want to know more about that, just have a look at that. So let's have a look. There is this very great matrix. It's a website. I'm going to link it down below too. And this matrix is going to give you a really great overview about what is going on in the messenger world, which ones are the ones you should use and which ones are the ones you really shouldn't use. And yeah, in the end, there are a couple of informations about all of these. So a big matrix, big table in the end, telling you about a couple of different messengers here. As you can see, we are talking about Wire, Conversations, Delta Chat, Discord, Elements, Facebook Messenger, Google Messages, iMessages, Jamie, Line, Monal, Session, Signal, Simple X, and a couple more. There are, if we go over here, Snapchat is in there, Telegram is in there, Teleguard is in there, Threema, Fiber, WhatsApp, and Wire. So just to let you know what the Bundesamt für Informationssicherheit, I think it's called like that, so more or less the security department, the digital security department of the government decided was that it's probably a good idea to go with Wire. And it's not a bad messenger, just to let you know. It's a fine one. It has a couple of smaller problems, but in the end it's a good one, okay? Anyway, the ones we are going to have a look at in this video to compare the different kinds of information and what that means for you are going to be Wire, Threema, Signal probably, and we are going to have a look at Matrix, or Element in this case, Element X I think it's called, which is more or less, there we go, there it is. Element X is for Matrix, pretty nice one, but there are a couple of different caveats with all of these, okay? So we are talking about that. And to do that, if you want to use this website for that, you can go to this button up there, filter that, and for instance, just select the ones you are interested in. If you're interested in any of the other ones, just go down below into the video description. I'm going to link this website there, and you can have a look at that. Okay, so let's have a look. We are going to want to have in there signal, of course. We are going to use simple X in this case. Streamer will be in there and wire. Okay, so like this, we can just talk about those and don't have to bother with others. I would never ever consider something like WhatsApp or some of the other big tech stuff, like even like Discord or something. Okay, if you need secure and private communications, don't use those. It's just not worth your while. It's not going to be private. It doesn't have the biggest or best encryption in there, and so on and so forth. And of course, in many of the cases, as an European user, because we're talking about European users here, all of the big tech ones are pretty bad for you, because in the end they are hosting in the US, and like that they have a problem. Which is, just to let you know, a big problem with Signal. Signal is a pretty good one, but it has this one flaw, which means that it's hosted not in the European Union or something like that, but it's hosted in America, so USA in this case, North America. And if we go down here, you can already see it. There are a couple of different things, but it's centralized. It uses an infrastructure with Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Cloudflare, meaning, okay, all the hosting is done in the US. All the hosting of this is done by the big tech, more or less. So that's a pretty bad thing to happen here. Good thing is it has a very strong, or at least considered as a very strong encryption in there. So the encrypted data and stuff like that shouldn't be able to be readable or something. But still, this is the worst thing about Signal. If you're an European user, don't use big tech, or at least try to not use it for this security relevant topics, because in the end, the American government, the US government, has this national security part where they can ask any kind of company, including Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Cloudflare, to give them informations, or better to say, the data of their services, of the servers, and so on and so forth, to them, even if they are not in the US, okay? So even if somebody like Amazon says, hey, we are hosting in Europe, everything is fine. No, it's not, because the government in the US can still force them to give out their data they have on their servers, even the ones in Europe. Even if there is, for instance, a daughter company or something, so not the main company, because they, for instance, did a German one or whatever, they are still able to get these informations from the daughter company, because they just can ask the main company for it, and the daughter company will very likely give it out, and it's forced more or less to give it out even, and that is a big problem with all of this. So, I used the wrong one, sorry. I didn't want to get simple X in this case, so let's get that one out of here. Sorry about that. And where is it? Element there, okay. So, let's talk about why I selected all these. Signal, as mentioned before, is one of the most secure ones regarding the encryption and stuff like that. All of them have a very good encryption, okay? None of them is bad or anything. It's really one of the best ones anyway, because it can even withstand some kind of thing like the quantum computing stuff. I'm not sure if that really is the case, because we just don't know what quantum computing is going to be capable of in future. But they claim that they use some kind of encryption which is even able to overcome this kind of stuff. You can see that here, post-quantum encryption, this means, and they are the only ones who claim, hey, we have something that shouldn't be more or less encryptable by a quantum computer. Quantum computers are very rare. They mostly don't work for most situations, and only in some situations they can be used. And all of these are supercomputers we are talking about, so it's very unlikely that that is in the near future a problem in any kind of way. But still, Signal is the only one that is telling us, hey, we can more or less get rid of that, which is, of course, yeah, a pretty big plus. Any of the other ones, even the ones I got rid of, are not claiming this, okay? So are they really sure about that? I'm not sure. Anyway, if you like Signal and you are using it already or something, it's fine to use it and still use it because, as mentioned before, not Signal itself was hacked, but only the accounts of the Signal users, okay? So let's talk about Matrix. What is Matrix? Matrix is a server-based one, which in the end is using a server to more or less broadcast the messages to the different people, but is still a very private one. And the great thing about Matrix clients is that Matrix clients are not based on one server system, but you can use a couple of them. So for instance, if you want to use your own one, you can host your own Matrix server and go over that. That is the reason why Matrix is, for instance, used by some militaries. So it's a great thing to use it, especially if you're using it with your own server and stuff like that, because then it's decentralized. And that's, of course, a pretty big thing, but the caveat about that is it's hard to do that. So in the end, you would have to set up a Matrix client, host that by yourself, do that stuff by yourself. And that is something I really think is going to break this, because it's just too hard for the normal users, okay? Somebody likes a military or something, that's totally fine, and it's a very secure one, so that is a really, really good thing for them. But any other user might have problems with that. If you are very tech savvy or whatever, do it. Great messenger, probably one of the best you can get. And if you want to do it by yourself, all by yourself, on your own server, perfect, use this one. There are open servers available which you can use if you don't want to host by yourself or something, but still, then you use or lose more or less the biggest advantage of this messenger, and then you really don't have to think about it anymore. So let's talk about Threema and Wire in this case. Both of them are in one thing better than Signal and most other things here, because they are more or less based in Germany, or better to say in this case in Switzerland, and that means European based, and yeah, pretty much one of the best options you can get if you ask me. I'm using Threema. Wire is a good one too. We are going to have a look at both of the things here and try to see which one has a slight edge over the other. But if you want to use Wire or you are using Threema, both are very, very nice messengers. Good thing about Threema is it's very, very common in the German-speaking countries. So in the end, if you're in Germany, if you're in Switzerland, in Austria, and some other parts there, you are likely already have heard about Threema. Threema has one caveat, but I think that's even a good thing if you ask me. It's at the first time you have a lifetime license for that, but you have to pay it once, okay? We are talking lifetime, okay? We are not talking monthly or year or whatever. You can use this license forever if you are paying this kind of money there once, and then it's really a great thing. Just to let you know, I'm not sponsored by anybody, okay? So this is really a private video I'm doing here. I don't even have all the messengers I'm showing you here. And in the end, so we are just talking about what this is and why it's a great thing. In my opinion, of course, because this, of course, is a very opinionated video. I'm talking about a couple of facts here, but in the end, all my things I'm saying to you, so the stuff that I am going to recommend are my recommendations, just the subjective ones. You can have other opinions about all this, so if you want to do a video by yourself, do it, all fine. Or talk about it in the commentary section down below, because maybe I'm just saying something wrong, or I just have some kind of a wrong intention or whatever you think. So let's talk about all this. In the end, as you already can see, the most common ones of these are, of course, Signal. So most people use already Signal, from the better ones at least. And Threema is very, very common too. Wire is very, very common. Matrix, as mentioned before, because it's hard to use and stuff like that, is probably the most unfamous one. And yeah, a messenger that only you are using is very secure, yeah, but it doesn't help you anymore, right? So in the end, Streamer, Wire are probably the best ones you can get here. So let's go down, see what we are talking about. Okay, so as you can see, they all work more or less for all the different versions here. Exception is web browser, so Signal can't be used with your web browser only. You will have to use some kind of a special app for that. I'm not the biggest fan about that, so we are going to have a look at Streamer in this case. All of these are doing that in a better way. Let's go down. This one, multi-accounts, so meaning that you can, for instance, use different kinds of profiles and connect them together or something like that. Neither Signal can do that, nor Streamer can do that. Wire seems to be able to do that. In general, for most people, I don't think that is very relevant. If you are a multi-account user, you need that, then maybe Wire is a better option for you, or maybe depending on the client you are using, Element X, as I mentioned before, for instance, you should be able to use multi-accounts in that too. Okay, so next thing. How do you find contacts on these different kinds of messengers? So something like WhatsApp, for instance, is going to access your contacts, all of them, and just transfer all of the data in these contacts in your smartphone to Meta, so the US-based company, and give them all these informations. That is a big flaw of WhatsApp, if you ask me, for instance, and so don't use WhatsApp, please. It's really the worst option you can use, probably. And the good thing about Streamer, for instance, is, and that is something that they don't talk about here much, but it's still a better thing for using Streamer over Signal, if you ask me. Streamer had for the longest time, okay, I think recently they added the username part, but in the end, for the longest time, you needed a mobile number to use Streamer. And not Streamer, sorry, Signal, of course, Signal. You had to use a mobile number to use Signal. Streamer, on the other hand, always had the Streamer ID, so you don't have to connect your mobile number with Streamer. And I'm not sure what the current state is at Wire, but as it seems, email or Wire name are possible here, so all of this should be fine and you should be able to use that. Streamer, I think Streamer is the one that with its Streamer ID had this for the longest time, okay? So I really like this and it should work very, very well. Again, Matrix, of course, you can use anything there too. Matrix is based more or less in the same direction as Streamer. I think both of them do not do too much to each other. Okay, so let's have a look at what is going on here in the next part. So, is it fully open source? So in the end, all of these are more or less open source, but Streamer has one caveat. Streamer has not yet given out the server information. So the client itself is open source, fully open source, nothing to worry about there. The server itself is not fully open source. It's a closed source system. Good thing about it is, of course, that all the information that's connected and transferred and stuff like that is already encrypted and so on the system itself, so on your smartphone in the end. And so since the client is already open source, we can already see that everything is fine. And there are security audits. So if you have a look at this, there's this last security audit. Streamer had the most recent security audit about that, and in that part there, they talked about and had a look at the server code and what that was all about and did an audit there. And the last one was, of course, successful. They did that for a long time now, and it seems to be fine. So this is the best thing, or the best thing you can do if you are not fully open source. And I would say it's pretty trustworthy like this. Anyway, let's have a look. Another thing which is a little bit problematic is the the stuff like, it's not only, okay, sorry, it's coming down there. We are talking about the encryption part. So in the end, Matrix, while being pretty good, the best encryption services or protocols are in the end the ones used by Signal, Streamer and Wire. All of those are very, very close in the possibilities to hack them and stuff like that. Only this post-quantum stuff is the difference there, but I would say it's very secure to use all of them. The ALM, I'm not sure about Matrix in this case. It's less secure for some kind of reason. I don't know why it's considered that. I'm not that deep into that. So in the end, I would prefer Streamer and just more or less, yeah, take what they say on the website here for granted, because in the end, all the other ones are considered to be very, very secure, and as you can see, they seem to be very, very, very secure by this website too. So that seems to be fine there. Let's go down, have a look at the other options here. As you can see here, a couple of different other informations about, for instance, if the other user on the other side, more or less using this part, is going to change anything about his system. Are you going to be yeah, more or less alerted about that? So let's say that if the other user is, so the connecting user, the person you are going to talk to, is going to change his smartphone, you will have an information about that, okay? So you are getting, hey, something happened at the other side. Would you like to see if it's still the right user and stuff like that? That's a security measure. You don't have to talk about that. It's not going to no longer work or something, but you get the information. Something happened there. Would you mind to check if the user is still the user you want to have there, okay? Yeah, how is that done? There are a couple of different security measurements. For instance, in Streamer, you can have, I think it's 3 different status of users, okay? You have the status of it's just the one connected to whatever you searched for, a name, the Streamer ID, whatever. Then you have the status of somebody you connected more or less while being very, very close to them and connected like that one. And you have the part where you scanned a QR code on the other display of the other smartphone, and like that the person was really that one, and you can still see that this one is really, really secured by a certificate in the end then, okay? So whatever, this one is, yeah, for my understanding, that is one of the best things about Streamer. You can really, really be sure about who you are talking about, or to, because it's a very secure and very, very nice way to secure that the person is the person you want to talk to. Okay, so what about something like push notifications? All of them do them. All of them do them in a more or less right way. Don't use the Google ones, please. So if you use, for instance, something like Sailfish OS or something like that, in Streamer Libre, for instance, which you are going to download then, it's not going to use this one. It's going to be probably the direct connection, which is fine then, okay? Anyway, otherwise it's going to be the Apple one. Not perfect neither, but still, if you're using a privacy first phone already, then this is probably not a problem. Otherwise, it's the best you can get, okay? Well, so let's have a look at this. This is the thing where Matrix is really, the best, more or less. We are talking about federated, centralized, and centralized systems, okay? The best thing would be something like peer-to-peer, which is hard to get with this kind of messengers, because it's just very hard to connect peer-to-peer, meaning smartphone to smartphone and nothing in between. For anybody using this, would work in a Wi-Fi network or something, but outside of that, it's really hard to achieve. For that reason, for instance, Matrix would really win this in this case, because, of course, you are not more or less fixed on one server, but there can be several ones. It can be your own server and stuff like that. So this is what I already talked about there. Most or biggest problem, infrastructure. you might have to go with Google in this case. So that's a very, very bad thing. Same thing for Signal, for instance. It's using this infrastructure with Amazon, Microsoft, and so on and so forth. Nothing we want there. Same thing for Wire. So I don't really know why they used Wire for the communications there. Something like Streamer would maybe have been a better option because they host in Switzerland by themselves. So this is one of the main reasons I am using Streamer, because I think Switzerland is a better server place where they are hosting everything and where that should be. You can think about that again, because of course Streamer and all the other ones are encrypted their data anyway, so what does it matter? It might matter a little bit because the server itself at least knows that you are connecting to it with an IP address and stuff like that. That is something you can't cover up, okay? And like that, Streamer in Switzerland, in Europe, having European data protection, at least the Swiss one is not the best one in Europe, but still better than anything outside. So it's better than all the other ones. Okay, one other thing. As mentioned before, Streamer costs a little bit of money. Some people would consider that a disadvantage. I consider it partly more or less really an advantage, because like that we know how they do it. So how do they use their service? How do they more or less obtain and use their service? How is it done? And yeah, how can they finance themselves? That is one of the most important things to know about any kind of service, because in the end, if they are not letting you pay directly money to them or something, then you are somehow in another way the product, okay? So you are going to get sold by your data or whatever, because otherwise they could not obtain the kind of server structure and stuff like that. And Streamer is the only one who really does it with a one-time pay, so it's a really, really fair price, I would say. And in the end, this one has really the best option here, because everybody knows how they make their money and why they make their money, and that they are not selling your data protection stuff, whatever, to any kind of third party, because they don't have to. They have the money from the one-time payment you gave them, and of course a couple of different users coming in each year and so on and so forth, so they can really obtain their privacy and your privacy and don't have to sell everything. Again, where can you get that? Everywhere. That's a good thing about the Streamer part, for instance. F-Droid, for instance, has a problem with the wires. So F-Droid would be something that you are probably going to use if you can to get the Signal app, which you can't because F-Droid is not on the Signal one, but Streamer can be obtained by going to F-Droid in the end. F-Droid is a free and open source marketplace, more or less, or the better to say the app store, not a marketplace, because I don't think there are paid apps on there, but it's an app store, and like that you can really easily get this. Streamer itself is going to sell you the license by themselves. It's more or less a small little license key you are getting there, which you can use all of the time again. And it's very, very easy to get it back if you really need to, because for some kind of reason you lost your license. But your license is not in any kind of way connected to your account. So even if somebody would obtain this license key, he can then use his own Streamer ID, but you are not going to have any kind of other opportunity to hack you or something. So very interesting concept. I really like this about them. So same thing, what are we talking about here? So where is going to be the court if you have to, for instance, sue somebody also? And this is very interesting. For most of these services, it's pretty much, for Streamer and Wire, it's Switzerland. Matrix depends on the server you're using there. If it's your own one, you don't have to worry about that. If it's another one by another person, depends on where this other server is more or less placed or where it is, and that is a problem. Signal, worst thing about it, USA. So if you really have to go to court and try to get you right for whatever reason, if you are an European, yeah, just forget it. It's more or less exactly like that, because if you really have to fight for your data protection rights in the US, not going to happen. As a European Union member or whatever, a citizen here, if you are outside of the US, you are probably not going to win this, or you have a really, really big and hard time to do that. Very high costs, of course, and stuff like that, so nothing we are doing there. In the end, you're not going to do it by yourself. So let's be clear, most of the people are not going to go to court for anything like this, okay? But more importantly, if, for instance, one of the data protection officers which are there in the European Union, for instance, for the countries or some kind of other federal state below that, they can do the same thing and more or less try to sue the companies or whatever behind that if they do something wrong. And yeah, in the European Union, you are in Switzerland, and it's not the EU, but it's still very, very much connected to us. Much easier to obtain your rights there and get what you deserve to get there. And so that is a big plus for Threema and for Wire, for instance. Again, Threema, best one here, maybe Matrix too, depending on the server standpoint or where it is, the area where it's placed. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of different other things here, why, for instance, Matrix and so on are really, really great about all the different functionalities. In the end, Threema has one little drawback, which is that there is a limit for how many people can be in the group chats. It's 256, it's not small, okay? You can really do whatever you want there. Wire is on the lower side. Still 100 is not nothing or something, but 100 is not much. So in the end, Signal, for instance, has 1000. Matrix can have, yeah, depending on the server and the performance of the server, a lot more. And Threema is at least in the middle there. So in the end, for me, Threema is still the one I would use here. So let's go down here and see about backup, for instance. How is a backup done? Would you like to do it and stuff like that? So in the end, Threema gives the opportunity for you to go to a server, to your own server in general, and you can do local backups, of course. So on your SD card or whatever, copy it down from your smartphone to your computer, whatever you want to do there. It's all pretty much what you should have there. So what do we have here? Backups. So we are talking about backups at the moment. So are the backups encrypted? For Threema and Signal, yes they are. For Wire and for Matrix, not that much, or better to say, they are encrypted, so you can't really access them. But very important, if you're on iOS in this case, Apple will have this encryption key, and that makes it a little less secure, I would say. So in the end, Apple is able to go over the encryption key and more or less get a backup of all your data and stuff like that that is in there by that. And that makes Wire for me, at least if you are on iOS, a pretty bad option if you ask me, because like this, they can, for instance, just get one of the backups you are doing, hopefully, and if you're doing a backup, then it's a security flaw in the end. So maybe you don't want to use Wire here. And yeah, what does this mean in the end? What would I recommend? In the end, I recommend Threema, because Threema has all this different kinds of things. There are a couple of things they don't have, like this post-quantum one, which is a bummer, but again, if I would have to go with Signal for that, because they are hosting in the US and stuff like that, they are really out of the picture for me. And in the end, I want the European Union to have their own sovereign data structure and stuff like that, and services and so on. And so Wire and Threema, maybe a Matrix, are the only ones I really consider to be the really, yeah, the ones we should aim for in the future, okay? And I would say that Threema more or less gets over Wire. There's another one, which is Session. Other people think that Session is a really, really great one. Problem with Session is, for instance, so this is more or less what they recommend from this website, okay? So all of them are recommended, but Wire isn't that much. And Threema is recommended, Signal is recommended, Matrix is is recommended, but the problem is this one. So how easy is it to use this? So Matrix, harder to use. Signal, pretty easy. Streamer, pretty easy. Wire, harder to use. So in the end, if you are not very tech savvy, you might want to go with Signal or with Streamer. And the problem is, it's not only about you. So for instance, if you want to talk to your family or whatever, and you have a father, a mother, your grandma, whatever, and you want them to use this service too, because you want to talk to them, it's probably a good idea that it's easy to use, right? And so Streamer wins this over, for instance, Matrix for me, or over, for instance, Wire for me, and over, for instance, Session for me, because Session is hard to install and do stuff with too. If you want to have more information about Session and stuff like that, please just have a look at the link down below. I'm going to post it there. And other than that, it's more or less what I wanted to show you and talk about in this video. I hope you had fun, you learned something. And yeah, just to let you know, as everything is more or less available in the F-Droid store, or like Signal is downloadable otherwise, or at least there are some kind of clients available for Signal. You can use all of them for SailfishOS, for instance, if you want to have one of the more data protective operation systems for mobile from Europe. SailfishOS will help you with that, and you can have a look in my channel for any kind of information about SailfishOS. Of course, have a look up there. There are a couple of videos where I'm talking about all this, because this channel in general is for SailfishOS. Other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Oh, and don't forget to give a thumbs up, of course. Subscribe to the channel if you didn't till now. And of course, if you have any kind of questions, comments, whatever, put them down below into the commentary section. And other than that, thank you for watching. See you around, and till the next episode. Bye. Bye.